by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all guns. I love it, property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag.
I am very, very excited about this interview for a plethora of different reasons. But before I introduce our esteemed guest, for just a moment, if you think of what we live through in this country, a country built on liberty, freedom, property rights over your own life, the kind of fascism, the kind of government dictate we lived through during COVID, it's only tragic if you look at it from the position of the American. If you look at it from the position of the fascist, of the communist, of the Marxist, of the Nazi, that's exactly what this country and the world needed to get everybody in line. Think about that when I tell you about this new book and this incredible woman. She's a human rights advocate and founder of the Alliance for Human Research Protection, a nonprofit dedicated to promoting transparency and accountability in biomedical research. The new book, Never Again, is now global. The dangers of a one-world final solution. She is Vera Sharav. Vera, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, I'm fascinated by the book, and I'll tell you why. It really felt for me, and the reason, the benefit I have of being old and being involved in a very close family is that it was my uncles that fought the Nazis that gave me my suspicion of government, that made me aware of the promises of utopia in collectivism. And when I saw your book, I see the swastika in the middle. And then I look you up. You have a history of dealing with the Third Reich, which gives you quite insight into what we're faced now, which I believe is the Fourth Reich. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I was a child. I was 3.5 when my family were deported from Romania. We were deported to a concentration camp in Ukraine. My father died within, I'm not sure if it's 6 months or 8 months. You know, time doesn't matter much when you're in a camp like that.
No.
But he died, soon after. And of course, I was there actually for 3 years. Now, this was not a death camp per se. There were thousands of camps scattered throughout Europe. It wasn't just Auschwitz and Dachau, which are the known ones. There were many, many camps, and many of them were like way stations.
Yes.
En route eventually to be annihilated, but weren't immediately. So most of the deaths in these camps occurred from disease. Typhus is what my father died of, and that was rampant in all the camps and ghettos. And starvation and cold,
Yes.
So this was my early childhood. I was there from 3.5 to 6.5. And just to give people an idea of what it means to starve at that age, I left the camp with the same coat that I came in with. I did not grow.
So, it's a very interesting, I did not know that. I knew of your as a child you had suffered under this. But you say something that is that people need to be aware of. The reason you went to what is now called the Ukraine is because of Stefan Bandera and the stronghold of the Nazis and the who are now the Azovs, as we are now. Vera, this drives me insane. All right? First of all, during the Cold War, Khrushchev, Brezhnev, Chernenko, Podgorny, all leaders of the Soviet Union, all Ukrainians. The Ukrainians that were on the side of the Nazis in Ukraine were the most ferocious and the vicious between the Romanians and the Polish and the other Soviets that the Russians they killed. Why does no one know this, Vera? Why does no one talk of this?
Well, this is the reason I wrote the book, because the problem is that nobody really, except for those who are historians, but people don't know history. They don't know their recent history, the history that has shaped what we are living through now. It is extremely relevant.
Oh, the biggest stronghold in the whole region was Ukraine, right? And you look forward and you look at what we've already gone through. Now America, with the help of the most controversial administration in American history, the Obama administration, orchestrates this war and all of the nonsense, and Biden follows through with consummating the war. And America gives $300 billion to not just the most corrupt nation in the world, but the only nation who was the last nation near Russia who was the strongest holdout for the Nazis. And now you see in Maine the admission I've always thrown as an allegation of the American Democrats as they nominate a Nazi. And if you look at Operation Paperclip and all the American sympathizers who brought in the Nazis didn't lose. They were quiet. They're here. We, as the American government, have funded the Fourth Reich, and I believe COVID is a direct bioweapon created by the Fourth Reich under the nose of the American people all the time. Am I just paranoid, Vera?
No, you're not paranoid. You know some of the history. It's really, one doesn't really have to be a genius or an expert to connect the dots, because there are dots, and they're quite obvious once you know how the Nazi war was formulated and shaped, and how the final solution was, put together. This is, at that time, yes, Jews were the sort of officially the prime victims, but they weren't the only victims.
No.
Not by a long shot. And a lot of the history of the Holocaust, that'll be in another book, I have to tell you. I have plans. I have a mission. One of the reasons that I'm doing this is because I realize that I really do have a mission. I have to tell the truth the way I know it, the way I've studied it, the way I've connected the dots. And it is really to warn people. History doesn't repeat itself exactly. It never does, but it's cyclical. And it does go along and repeat certain things that worked the last time around.
So,
and one of the main things is to create fear in the public mind. That is the most potent weapon, more than bombs.
And then what comes in? Obligation and guilt. But the fear is the most important. I was blessed in life. I had a Holocaust survivor who was dear friends with my grandfather. His name was Harry Roth. May God rest his soul. And I loved him. I admired him. And what he was able to do was show that in the beginning, when the Nazis really started to take over, it was the accusation of the nonconformist. Before they started to say imprison and arrest and kill the Jew, they first cast the aspersion of he's a capitalist. You could never, the reason he built Stoke and envy among his fellow Germans and those who were failing was the accusation first, before the religion, was that he was a capitalist. He was a nonconformist. He was greedy. And he had to be, his assets had to be taken away. He had to be in prison. When you hear these scoundrels talk today, and I'm serious when I say this to you, in Chicago, I've been listening to it for years, New York now, Seattle, you look around the country, who are they attacking? They're not outright first attacking the Jew, although they are, but they attack the capitalist in the same way the Third Reich did. I mean, it's happening again, isn't it?
Well, political prisoners were the first ones, actually. Dachau was the first concentration camp, and that was for political prisoners. Some of them may have been Jews, but it wasn't exclusively. The other thing that I think is terribly, terribly important and very valid regarding COVID is that the first victims of the Nazis, the first medical victims, were German. They were German babies who their crime was they weren't perfect. They were born with some disability.
Yes.
So they were the first ones that the doctors murdered. The next group were the older children with disabilities, and then it was all the mentally ill in the various asylums. They were completely decimated, and then the elderly. All of these human beings were tagged as worthless eaters. Now, during COVID, who did they first target? The elderly.
Old. Yeah, the old. Yes.
And that happened all over Western Europe as well as America. The worthless eaters. Of course, in America, there was the added incentive. The insurance companies got rid of the people that had paid all their lives.
Social Security, everything, all the obligations.
Social Security and health and all kinds of, people had all kinds of, insurances. Middle-class people carried a lot of insurance. But this way, they got rid of that obligation to pay for their care. And I live in New York City, and, and we had Governor Cuomo directing hospitals not to treat the elderly, send them to nursing homes.
After he took the sick and put them in the old people home. First, he made certain they were contaminated.
Absolutely. He even said this virus in nursing homes is going to be like fire through dry grass, unquote. So I guess he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I'll say he did. And I was going to swear, but you're a lovely woman, and I wouldn't swear. But the audacity to run again, run as mayor, the audacity, the sheer outrageous audacity as they steal with one hand, they perpetrate a scheme with another, and they think people still voted for this scoundrel.
This is a machine. The politicians. The political system, I'm afraid, really, in the United States is completely bankrupt. Really, both parties are.
Oh, absolutely. But, Vera, I also see the rise of change, especially among the southern states. I mean, it's beautiful. I'm sure you're aware.
There are, yes. The big changes, change of mind, really, are the working class. It's not those who are in the academies. It's not those who've been indoctrinated for tens and tens of years. No. It's people who still have their common sense to put two and two together and to see what is obvious.
Well, the Third Reich grabbed a stronghold among the pseudo-intellectual frauds and professors and doctors. Same thing like now.
Yeah.
Same thing like now.
Exactly. The whole horror there could not have happened without the academics, without the medical establishment, the judiciary.
Yes,
and this is very, very similar. In other words, those institutions are a facade.
Yes,
they're not fulfilling that which we believe they're doing. They're not doing it at all.
Well, the Republic is a facade. And this is also shame on the American people who doesn't understand what he's supposed to do, what his obligation is to fight for his own property and his own representation. Right. There are people today who think high crimes and misdemeanors is taking deodorant off of a shelf in Walgreens. They don't understand. It has nothing to do with that. It's when a politician double crosses you and becomes something he said he wouldn't. And in that form, when's the last time there was a successful impeachment? A successful impeachment for the right reason. We could impeach the Supreme Court justices. We could impeach the senators, the congressmen, all of it. And we do nothing.
No, because we have been taught to just obey. And people have been obeying, mindlessly as if they were sheep.
And that's why, Vera, this kind of book exposing the bioweapon that was COVID and explaining how it was used as a weapon, as a cudgel, as an excuse to become gods among men, which is all socialism is. There is no such thing. There is no utopia. The schemes don't work, whether you're a Marxist, a communist, or a socialist. But these political whores who do nothing become gods among us. And look at how the American has been cultivated to be happy and thankful for the 50% of his income he gets to keep. I hope your book spurs a revolution. I think the next one should be called Beware the Fourth Reich. Go ahead. I won't sue you, Vera.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying, because people, this country was, if we were really following the Constitution, all this wouldn't be happening.
Of course not.
The whole government, the Constitution was formulated to prevent government from taking over and controlling the population. It's supposed to be the other way around. They're supposed to be serving us. They're not supposed to be making deals behind closed doors that, essentially get rid of lives.
No,
they're not supposed to be allowing any time. Look how many wars we're in, and it doesn't even matter. Yes, you were right about the Obama administration, but the same thing, the same thing was happening under Biden. Same thing's happening under Trump. I mean, why are we in Iran, for God's sakes?
Well, it's interesting. The Iranian thing. I go back to Jimmy Carter. Carter. That's and I'll never forget.
I mean, it's oil. That's where the money is.
And here's the thing, Vera. Their GDP. I find this fascinating, but most people don't talk about it. The Iranian GDP is less than 50% of the revenue of Walmart. Mm-hmm. Here you got this. I mean, right there. So they have this power because our politicians allowed them to have this power. They can deliver their product because our politicians allow them to deliver the product. If you remember Iran since 1974, 1975, it was a cosmopolitan area. It was the American foreign policy and the European foreign policy that allowed the theocracy to take over. So I don't like theocracies, and I don't like this specific theocracy.
No, but you know what? Everybody should keep to their own.
I know, but
we're not Santa Claus, and we're not knights in shining armor. How do we go about policing with bombs of the worst kind?
Yeah.
That just destroy the atmosphere. Never mind.
Vera, this is my ancestors' fault. I'm going to take full blame for this. This is the Vikings' fault. If they would have never brought back this silly Christianity, we would have taken over the world and everything would be safe. I'm kidding. I'm absolutely kidding. I'm a Christian. I'm just joking, Vera.
Yeah, no. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, you said something before, and I just want to add, every ism, it doesn't matter what, ends up as fascism. Whether it's communism, socialism, you name it. Any ism, it means dictatorship.
Look at it this way, Vera. And when you think about World War II, right? Who won World War II? The Americans. The Americans won it. How did they win it? The largest ethnic group in America to fight in World War II were Italian Americans. Half of those guys went back to Italy. They knew everybody they were shooting at. The second most ethnic group that went back and fought in World War II were Germans. American Germans, American Italians were killing Italians and Germans on the principle of what? On the principle of the only country that was built on the citizen and not the government. And right after, what happens? The American government becomes
totally. Well, look, Eisenhower said it when he left office. He warned the military-industrial complex. He didn't know yet about the medical military-industrial complex. That's what we have now.
Yeah, and look at how they use it as a front.
Medicine is weaponized again. That's what happened during COVID.
Yes, and they use it as a front, and they use the money as a front. They use the vaccine as a front. And, I love the fact that you're exposing this. I mean, I really do. From what I understand, this was a documentary that was turned into this book. And you, along with Robert...
That's right. Yes.
Well, where can we look at the documentary, and where do you want us to buy the book?
Oh, boy. Well, the book is all over now. I mean, at Amazon you can get it. And the documentary, if you just say Never Again Is Now, global.com.
Vera, I love the fact we were able to talk about this, and it's crucially important that people understand nothing is what it appears on the surface. Sometimes it leads to other things, and ultimately fear, obligation, and guilt can destroy the world.
Oh, totally. Fear, people can't think straight when they're in a state of fear. It's like a deer in the headlights, It's that kind of thing. They don't know, and they'll do anything that they're told.
Yes, but look at, you spent the first 3.5, 4, 5 years of your life dealing with fear most people can never imagine. And you know what that made you, Vera? That made you fearless. And I love the fact that you're still doing it. So thank you for sharing this with all of us. Really, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
Make money, smoke cigars, and live free on The Shaun Thompson Show on AM 560. The Answer.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
March 4th, 1865. The Civil War was nearing its end. The nation was exhausted, divided, and grieving. On that day, President Abraham Lincoln delivered his second inaugural address, just 700 words spoken in about 7 minutes. 41 days later, Lincoln would be assassinated. Yet the words he spoke that day still echo through history. In that brief address, Lincoln referenced God 14 times, spoke of prayer, and quoted scripture repeatedly. He reminded Americans that both sides of the conflict shared a common faith, saying both read the same Bible and pray to the same God, and each invokes his aid against the other. Lincoln understood that political division alone could not explain the nation's crisis. More than 160 years later, America still wrestles with division, truth, and our dependence on God. The question is whether we'll remember the wisdom Lincoln left behind.
If you've saved $100,000 or more for retirement, call Steve Shyman today at 833